You're listening to the Soju Sessions, episode 9 on the SojuTalk Nation podcast feed. After talking to members of the nation from around the world, it's become clear. We all have similar experiences with persistent themes and stories despite our differences. The internet has made these similarities far more of a shared experience than ever before. Heritage, representation, and cross-cultural celebrations have added new layers to our modern entertainment experience, particularly in K-pop. Aura joins me to talk about her origin story, heritage, and how she connects with storytelling in media. We talk BTS, the light at the end of the long pandemic road, and our hopes for a broader scope of Southeast Asian representation. Coming up, BTS, Kim's Convenience, and Southeast Asian culture with Aura. Joining me today on Soju Sessions is a member of the K-Drama Club, a member of a very particular set of fans on the server who really like and love a certain Wonho. We have the amazing, articulate person from Canada, Aura. Welcome to the show today, Aura.
Hi, thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just enjoying the weekend. Getting some
the
creativity.
weather is great here.
Nice. You're on the east by Toronto, right?
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, yes.
And the weather's nice at this time of the year? Huh.
Yeah, it's like 25 degrees, I'd say.
Nice. For those who are Fahrenheit, that's, I want to say like 60. Something like that.
Right.
Like 60, 70. 70. I think 70. Okay, let's just do that. I can't math right now, but it's okay. We're here to talk about some really cool things. A lot happened in K-pop this past week, but we do always want to start with getting the backstory and history of the people on the server, the members of the nation, and starting from that foundation of their point of view of how they experience certain events in K-pop and the current events in K-pop. So with Aura this week, kind of just wanted to go over her origin story and ask her when she got started in K-pop and how she grew into K-pop and her fandom. So Aura, what was your first experience with K-pop and when was that?
I'd like to say like mid-April last year, so it's basically been a year. I got into K-dramas at the beginning of March, I'd say, and then because I got into K-dramas, my Instagram feed is filled with like K-dramas and all that stuff, and I stumbled upon like some videos of K-pop, so then that's how I got into K-pop. And also because there's OSTs and most of the singers of the OSTs are K-pop idols, so I did some research and got into them, and that's how I got into K-pop.
Yeah, with K-pop and Korean entertainment, it's always a case where it's so separate from us in the West, right? The Western markets, just because it's not something easily accessible. Exactly. But once you fall into it, you fall into the rabbit hole, and you fall into these endless nights of research and learning new things about your favorite actors, and in this case, idols. So what was the first song that you listened to or music video that you saw that really popped off for you as your entry point and really piqued your interest to want to explore more about K-pop?
So I'd say like at the beginning, I was mostly into OSTs. So like, I know Punch and Chanyeol have Stay With Me, so that was like basically my first into K-pop video. And then I found an Instagram video on God's Menu, and it was like the iconic Felix deep voice line that really get me into K-pop. So I think Felix's video was like a month or so later, like around the time God's Menu released. So I wasn't really like a K-pop person. I was more into K-dramas, but then I saw Felix's video, and I was like, oh my god, maybe I should get into K-pop. So that made me really get into K-pop.
So very much all of the recent amazing things that have happened in K-pop are very fresh with you, right? With all the ways that you
Yeah.
experienced it. Did you ever go back to kind of going into the history of older groups and things leading up to this past 2 years of K-pop?
Um, I I kind of watch like on Netflix, like there's things explained or something. Like there's like this documentary, and it explains like how K-pop came to be. And my dad was watching it the other, so like I just sat and watched it with him. So I know like how it came to be, but I haven't really like looked into past older groups other than like maybe Big Bang and a few others. But I don't really know them like very in depth.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those like entry points are things that are fairly new, I would say, in the past like 5 or 6 years. It's just interesting how like K-pop has evolved
Hmm.
since the beginning of the 2010s. Where for me, my start was a 2010 YouTube video that was passed around from friend to friend. It was the Girls' Generation G video, still up by the way, still the original version that I saw with like over 1 billion views. And it's just this idea of community and how and the lengths of like how someone would find community 10 years ago is so different than it is today, where you have something like Netflix where your dad could stumble on a video and then you could be watching it with him. I know that you and I became friends through SojuTalk and the Discord. How did you find the podcast, and then
Hmm.
how did you find the podcast, and then how did you feel about coming into a community where you can actually interact with people and learn more about K-pop?
Yeah, so because I got into K-pop, I didn't really know a lot about it, and so I would go on YouTube and look at like reaction videos of people, and I because I watched so many reaction videos like Soju Talk, like the podcast video came onto my Explore feed, and that's how I started listening to the podcast. And then I I didn't have Discord at that time, I think. And then eventually I decided to get Discord in like August or something, but I still didn't join the Soju Talk community. I think I joined around like November, I think, or December, because I was like, okay, I'm finally listening to the podcast enough that I feel comfortable to join. And I joined after that. And I think like the community is very open and friendly. I I feel at home when I when I'm on the Discord. I don't really feel like, oh, I'm out of place and I don't know what to talk about and stuff like that. So I think this is a very good place, and I really enjoy being part of the nation.
It's really a found family, right?
Yes.
Where we have so many different backgrounds and cultures from across the world coming together online. And I mean, I feel like I always harp on this, but like 10 years ago, this is something I would never have imagined, having this immediacy with connecting with people.
Hmm.
You're from Canada, but I am from California, and we have a lot of friends from Europe and even Asia. What's that experience been like for you connecting with so many people across the world?
It's very surprising, to be honest. I never imagined myself to be on Discord, let alone on a K-pop server and talking to so many people across different countries and everything. So it's a very nice experience, but at the same time, whenever I talk about K-pop with my in real life friends, it's more they just get shocked because they're like, "Why are you talking?" Like, not why, but more like, "How are you talking to so many people from different countries at the same time?" Blah blah blah. So it's very surprising to them, and I think like they kind of judge me, but I don't really care anymore. So I'm having a lot of fun, and it's really nice knowing that I'm not the only one like listening to K-pop and feeling like a little bit left out because not all of my friends listen to K-pop. Um, so finding people online that do listen to K-pop is really nice.
Yeah, it's really about finding common ground in an interest in a subject that, you know, so long, not even that long ago, it felt like it was just very difficult to like find community and find connection with other people with K-pop, with Korean
Mm-hmm.
entertainment. I kind of wanted to pivot a little bit, but not too much, because this is kind of fall into your watching habits, your viewing habits, and the fact that you
Mm-hmm.
started off by watching K dramas, and that was your entry point into, broader Korean culture and Korean media. But this show is kind of a blend of Western culture and the immigrant story here in North America. Kim's Convenience is an amazing show. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I think it's like one of my favorite shows
Yes.
I have ever
Watch
seen.
it.
It's based in your hometown, correct?
Yes.
Toronto?
Yes.
Season 5 just finished. I think that's the finale for the entire series.
Yep.
I'm still waiting for it to be on Netflix. It should be coming up
Mm-hmm.
soon. But I wanted to
Yes.
ask you, it is a Canadian show. But for me, when I
Mm-hmm.
watch it, there are so many similarities with how Korean Americans how I've experienced Korean Americans and my Korean American friends here in California. What is it about the show that resonates with you, and how does it represent kind of the immigrant story and the mixed culture of what North America can be?
Um, Mostly like I feel like Kim's Convenience is I actually started watching that like last 2 years ago, I think, and this was before I was into K-pop, so like I was just exploring Netflix and watching it, and I it definitely resonates with a lot of immigrant people, and it did really impact me a lot because I could really connect to it in the sense that Janice is basically someone that I can see myself as because um, she she is like I don't know how to say this, but more she can do everything, but at the same time like she has those responsibilities of an immigrant child, and she takes care of the store. She still has to like to follow the rules and um adhere to the boundaries. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Or
Yeah, she has a sense of
yeah, like
duty to her family.
yes, exactly. And I think like as an immigrant, I definitely feel like I need to respect my parents. I want to please them, even though like sometimes I don't want to, like I have to. And I just it's it makes me feel like there's also like a part of Toronto that you get to see that not a lot of people see when they come to visit, right? Like you see like a lot of multicultural interactions and everything in Toronto, but you don't really get to see behind the scenes. So the show really portrays the diversity that we have in the city.
Yeah, it does a nice job using Toronto as a background, as a setting,
Mm-hmm.
and making it feel like Toronto. Because oftentimes a show will be shot in Vancouver or somewhere else, and then they'll say, "Oh, this was L.A., this was New York,"
Mm-hmm.
where, like, yes, like I can still imagine like them um, editing in a way where it's like they're not necessarily focused on certain aspects of the city, but the fact that the
Mm-hmm.
people in the show are Canadian, that there is kind of an authenticity to how they would talk about like the streets and the traffic and like walking between places that you don't
Yeah,
typically
like
get.
Lakeshore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you don't typically get if the people on the show, the actors on the show, aren't from that area. I think what stands out to me most is just how culture and language is used, because there are
Mm-hmm.
definitely challenges to being an immigrant, and a show like this can definitely fall into the traps of falling too much into a stereotype. Using stereotypes in a negative connotation. Whereas I feel like
Mm-hmm.
they're using the stereotypes to ask bigger questions, and the comedy occurs because of the situation. So whether that's a misunderstanding, a resolution between two people, or a reconciliation with family members, it's all in the direction of growth, and the comedy happens
Mm-hmm.
naturally because of the relationships. So, well, let me just ask you, what is your background and your heritage?
I am Indian. I'm 100% Indian. I actually moved to Canada in 20, like Christmas 2013, so like basically 2014. And yeah, like I grew up in the UK, but then I moved back to India and then I moved to Canada. So my my life story or background is like kind of a mess. But yeah, I moved to Canada when I was in ninth grade and I love Canada. And yeah, I I don't know what else to say.
No, you're fine. Well,
Uh,
so you and I have known each other, and I know this about you, but I did want to just ask, just to get you on the record to say it, just because I do want you
mhm,
to accurately represent yourself, of course. And
mhm,
going on that idea of accurate representation, there is a family on Kim's Convenience, the Metas. You have Mr. Meta,
mhm,
Mrs. Meta. He owns a restaurant, and they
yeah,
have a son, Raj. And
mhm,
he is a med student. I think he becomes a doctor at a certain point, but he is in a relationship with
yeah.
Janet. And I wanted to ask you, how was this relationship represented, and if you felt this was accurate and had a nuanced approach to kind of this multicultural interaction, but then also maintaining kind of the heritage of Raj's heritage, being Indian. How do you feel like his
Mhm.
character and his family were represented in the show?
I think like so overall like it was a good representation in my opinion. Like it wasn't like horribly done or anything. But I feel like being a girl definitely makes a difference. So Raj as a guy, as a boy was accurately represented, but if I were to look at it from the perspective of a girl, like not really, just because there are a lot of differences when you, or especially in Indian families, I say, um, they do definitely treat girls differently. So if there was a girl on the show, like you could see how differently the parents interacted with the girl and the boy, and like how biased they were towards the boy. So Raj definitely had more freedom and more options in terms of like choosing his bride or whatever, compared to a girl. So it was accurately represented, but not really in terms of like a girl because it's a guy.
Yeah, they didn't give you the full
Um,
scope of the
yeah.
contrast between if Raj had a sister,
Hmm.
perhaps, or a cousin who was in a similar situation.
Hmm.
Do you feel like the interaction between Raj and Janet is representative of kind of like the modern direction of immigrant children from Asian cultures who are a little bit more strict and rigid with marrying customs, and that they have to kind of push back against some of the friction of marrying cross culturally? Do you feel like that's something that you've experienced or something that is relatable to you?
Yeah, I definitely agree because when you grow up like in North America or anywhere else other than like your home country, it definitely impacts you. So if like I know like Raj struggled with his parents on the show, and I would definitely struggle personally speaking, like from my like side of the family, like we I have an aunt and she wanted to marry like someone that was Indian but not really like from the same region as us. And she faced a little bit of backlash, so I can't imagine like what type of backlash I or anyone else in my family would face if we dated someone out of the culture. Um, so I think it's there's progression, but not like to the point where there's acceptance or um, you feel comfortable enough to tell your parents or your family about your significant other.
And I do feel like these are common themes across the majority of Asian cultures, whether you're East Asian or
Yeah,
Southeast Asian, right?
definitely. Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that we have all come together because of K-pop, a very specific country of origin, but I'm Filipino and Chinese, and you're Indian, and yet we all do have similar experiences with kind of the humility of Asian culture, even if we are essentially from different worlds in a lot of ways. With the rise in popularity with K-pop and how Korean culture has been a positive representation for Asians to be more visible, how do you feel this shift? Do you feel like there's going to be a shift towards East Asian representation in Indian culture? And do you think that there's a positive effect that K-pop and Korean culture does have the limelight right now, is kind of spoken of positively? And do you feel like there is room for other Asian backgrounds to have that spotlight and success?
I think in terms of like music wise, K-pop is definitely on the rise just because they're so, I'd say, accessible and so like catering, because they definitely fulfill like a fan's desire. I'd say like the amount of interactions you get, like the stages, even though you're not seeing them in person, you have all those like live streams, merch, albums, all that stuff that you can buy and collect. In terms of that, like I don't know about other cultures, but I know like for Bollywood and Indian music, there isn't a lot that the music industry is doing to promote Indian music. So I don't know if other cultures are also like trying to promote, because I know I've heard Thai and C-pop and what else? Yeah, those two I've heard, but I haven't really like looked into that because first of all, like sometimes like when I look at the music videos, I don't really find subs. So if I don't understand what they're saying at least like the first time I'm listening to the song, I don't really want to get into them. So I think if they want to grow more and get into the Western market, they need to like have subs and more content that's for new like international fans.
What do you feel like are the challenges for Southeast Asian cultures to break into the market? I know you mentioned lack of subs and lack of accessibility, but do you feel like there are other culturally rooted
Yeah, definitely.
issues or challenges? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I know like a lot of people don't consider Southeast Asian people Asian just because they have darker skin. And I get very angry by this because even though like I'm South Asian, I still consider myself Asian. So like saying that like I'm not Asian is just a very demeaning thing. And I can't imagine like what they must feel because they face this on the daily. And so like I don't know like if other like international fans would be willing to accept other like Southeast Asian genres of music instead of K-pop. Like I think appearance is a big thing, and the whole like Korean like music industry is mostly like focused. They focus a lot on visuals. So like if the Western market doesn't like Southeast Asian visuals, then it's gonna be a problem, right? Like they can't really make it as big.
Yeah, I think there is a beauty standard that makes East Asian cultures, I guess, far more not acceptable, appealing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Appealing. Very much a lower barrier of entry for a lot of people, just because it is so much closer to Western media than perhaps Indian culture or Indian entertainment. And I do feel like there are small steps in bringing those barriers down and letting people in. And I do hope that there is more collaboration across different cultures with music. I think I've mentioned this like a million times, but I'll say it again. I think 88 Rising is doing an amazing job of bridging all of those gaps and saying Asian culture is not a monolith. We come from different parts of Asia, and these are the different languages that we're going to produce music in. I just like find that fascinating and amazing, and I hope that they do break into India, because there are so many people in India. It's an enormous country. It's an enormous continent. Um,
Um, yeah, I don't know if you know, but like we also have Chinese Indians, and it's like people get really shocked when they hear that there's Chinese Indians, and like people that look like they're from East Asia, but they're actually Indian, and everyone just gets really shocked. And I'm
right.
like, yeah, we have them, and they are Indians. They consider themselves Indians. They talk in their language and everything. So
I mean,
it's definitely like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're fine. I was gonna make a commentary slash joke. Like, if you just
Hmm.
think about it mathematically, the two uh, heritages on the planet of largest proportion are Chinese and Indian people. So really, it's probably more common than not that there are going to be mixed culture Chinese and Indian people in the world, considering how large they are proportionally to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you
Another
do.
thing I wanted
Go
to
ahead.
mention,
Yeah.
sorry,
No, you're fine.
like in terms of K-pop, like I love K-pop because there's also, you know how K-pop has a habit of having English lyrics, and they have like the big one line, like the song is known for like that English line, like specific line. They have that, right? But other cultures, they don't really incorporate the English line theme. So it's harder to like remember a song or say a song or sing a song because you can't speak the language as properly, so you don't really remember it, right?
Yeah, there's a musical construction to K-pop that allows
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of cultures to access it. I think that's a really big success in K-pop over the past 20 years as it's evolved. I mean, if you go
Yeah.
back to like 90s K-pop, honestly, it's pretty hard to like think about how you're going to incorporate that in your life if you don't live in Korea, if that's not like part of your daily culture. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for research purposes, I do that sometimes, and I'm just like, yeah, this is kind of tough. Like, I don't know how like I could, like, if I don't intellectualize what I'm watching, then it's hard for general. I can understand why it would be difficult for general audiences to want to listen to this music casually, because typically that's what you're doing with music. You have it on the background, and then you dig a little
Mm-hmm.
bit deeper once you find an interest. That's something that sparks, right?
Yeah,
This is actually
exactly.
a good spot for us to talk about a group that has made that shift, that made that jump. And they've risen in popularity over the past several years. Last year, they had an enormous song that was all in English that captivated the world and really showed kind of the global reach that Korean entertainment, Korean culture could have. And now, just a few days ago, they released a second song. Yes, we're talking about BTS, everyone. Um, Before we get into the song itself, I did want to ask you a couple things regarding BTS's popularity and success. So,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I do feel like they are their reach falls on two sides of the same coin, where I can appreciate and love the fact that they are so accessible. That now you are getting BTS has become a household name that everyone can think about when they think about Asian culture, which is great because for so long Asian culture has always been kind of looked down upon. A lot of stereotypes have been used in Western culture and Western media to accentuate things that may not have been so, let's say, flattering to what
Mm-hmm.
Asian culture has been and can be, right? And I think this shift is really important because, again, you want to open up the broader conversation of these are the past stereotypes, these are the past perceptions, who established those perceptions, and then how are those perceptions not broken, which I think BTS is doing an excellent job of doing. On the other side of that coin, if you're looking at it from a music standpoint, it does feel like K-pop has become primarily now associated with BTS. And I ask the question, and I wonder, is K-pop popular globally, or is it just BTS? Doug also asked this question on a show a couple months ago, I think it was actually last year, if the popularity of BTS is directly affecting the popularity of K-pop, or around the world, do we just have billions of BTS fans? Kind of want to ask an open question to you. What do you feel like both of those, I guess, both sides of that coin, right? Where, yes, it's amazing to have the accessibility, to have a different representation, to have a positive outlook on a different culture. But then if you break it down to the base, which is the music, how do you feel like BTS is affecting that perception of K-pop as a whole?
I think, at least like from my understanding and like my friends, I know like all of them mostly know about BTS, but they don't really know about K-pop. So I definitely agree that it's K-pop has been associated with BTS, but I don't think that people realize that BTS are also a part of K-pop. They just include BTS in their own genre, like I'd say, instead of a part of K-pop. Um, and because definitely like BTS has started doing English songs, so not like people who listen to BTS for the first time would assume that like they're only doing English songs, right? They're not really doing other like K-pop songs. So it's kind of difficult, and I'd say like people also sometimes don't really want to get into other types of K-pop music. They just want to stick to BTS because it's just accessible. So let's see.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, it is two sides of the same coin, right? Where it's like the
Yeah,
accessibility
exactly.
is great, because ultimately, the more people you reach in the world, the better you're able to change perceptions and kind of broaden thinking. But once it starts to get narrower and people only focus on BTS, then how do you, I guess, how do you increase exposure to not just BTS, but now to the broader
Hmm.
Korean culture and music industry coming from that? And honestly, those are fair questions to ask. I don't think that they are too critical, too spicy by any means.
Yeah.
I did kind of want to ask a somewhat inline question with BTS and kind of their older music, because I do feel like they've made a big shift to creating pop music, which all the power to them. You know, make your money. But a lot of older BTS was very much like hip hop focused. Did you ever explore some of their older music where it was a little bit grittier, a little bit more hip hop focused?
Um, Not really. I've listened to a couple, and I've listened to one or two mixtapes by the members, but other than that, no, I don't really like listen. I'd say I've tried and I just couldn't get into them, so I decided it's okay. Um, and I listened to like the new releases that came out, like um, Dynamite, Butter. I listened to all of those, but I haven't really listened to like the debut and like 2015, 2016 stuff. Um, yeah, I don't think I want like I just got like uninterested after listening to the two or three songs that I did listen to. Um, yeah.
And that's okay. It's a massive discography, and K-pop is known for their volume of music, right?
Yeah,
Again, not
exactly.
necessarily that we're saying it's quantity over quality, because they do make quality music, all from a certain
Hmm.
point of view, and definitely with their success. Kind of shifting over to now their most recent release. You just mentioned it, on May 21st. May 21st,
Think so.
Korean
Yeah.
Standard Time. Well, we're gonna go with Korean Standard Time, May 21st. BTS released a brand new single for 2021 titled "Butter." All right, so I do have a couple personal opinions on the song. I do feel like the song is another very accessible, fun, light, summery song. Definitely aimed at charting well globally, and it does continue to further this idea that K-pop can be globally accessible with polish and refinement, and then also showing the performance aspect of K-pop, because they are all great visuals, they are all great dancers. The group in and of itself is a great set of dancers. Okay, I don't want to like start fan wars or anything with certain members. Like, I know which members are great dancers. I know which members are the vocals and the rappers. I know that much. But I just do want to like give them a little bit of props, where it's like Dynamite was a hit last year, and they're kind of following that same vein with Butter, with a little bit of a quirky twist. But in your opinion, how did you feel about Butter and your personal preferences to this sound of disco retro?
Personally, you already know this, but I'm not like a huge upbeat type person. I prefer like chill, low, sad vibes. So like Butter was definitely like a change, and I don't mind it, but I think because it's in English and it's going to be played on the radio, I feel like I'm gonna get tired of listening to it over and over. Like it's not like a very hard replayable song in my opinion. But I know that's just because I'm not like a huge upbeat person. I don't like listening to a lot of upbeat songs.
Yeah, no, and that's totally fine, because like a song like this is meant to be like a summer, like super upbeat song, and I think they've accomplished that. But knowing what I know about you and the music that you and I share, oftentimes it's very moody and angsty and melancholy. Yeah. So
yeah, bad boy hours.
Do you feel like BTS, with the success of like Butter and Dynamite, do you feel like BTS can have a melancholy song that's even more angsty than Life Goes On?
I definitely think so, but I'm not sure if like I feel like their aim right now is they've already broken into the Western and international market, but I feel like they just want to make it even bigger. And if that's their goal in the future, then more angsty song than Life Goes On will not help them, because I feel like people look forward to upbeat and more positive vibes rather than like angsty stuff. So if they want to get bigger, then angsty is not really their go-to genre. Like they should stick with the upbeat stuff.
Yeah, they're definitely playing to the times, right? Where we are hopefully transitioning out of the pandemic, but let's be real, like the past 18 months has been very difficult for the entire world in so many ways. And Dynamite was a nice palate cleanser in the summer of last year to just say, hey, we'll get through it, even though times still may get more challenging in the next couple of months. We'll still, do our best to be there for each other and try to celebrate like we did in the past. And now I do feel like Butter is just another iteration on that, but kind of looking to the horizon that there is an end to all of this, right? Because I do feel like the world is opening up again. Hopefully we have live audiences. Hopefully we have shows at things.
And we have something to look forward to now.
Yeah, and I do think that Butter may be like the last like vestiges of just like trying to keep everyone's spirits up to make it to the very end. But then, once the world does start to normalize and, you can actually like play into different moods and play in different seasons, perhaps they do have an angsty song coming up. Perhaps they do have a winter, February, like dark song that just talks about feelings and emotions of just like days past. So I don't know. The future can hold many things, and I think BTS is very capable creatively of exploring different genres and sounds.
Exactly.
Yeah. To kind of wrap up our conversation, how do you feel like, I think I did ask you this a little bit, but kind of go into it more. With the acceptance of Asian culture now and shifts here and there with different parts of Asia, different representations, what do you feel like, how do you feel like your music experience will evolve in the coming years?
Mm, Currently, so last year I almost exclusively just stuck to boy groups and soloists, and this year I have explored more into girl groups. So I feel like over like as time goes by, I'm definitely going to be more open to um other people and other genres of music. So I think it's gonna be a very nice experience, especially because um so on Friday, the same day as Butter released, Eric Nam and Arman Malik and another producer, they had a collaboration, and they released their song. So I'm looking forward to those types of collaborations because Arman Malik is like a Bollywood song or Bollywood singer, but they did like an all English collaboration. So I feel like if those types of collaborations, then I'm going to be more open to listening to other um, types of music and exploring those singers. So yeah, I'm excited, and let's see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah, so I think like I'm gonna be more open to different music tastes and genres. I've also started to explore like uh what's it called? C-pop, and definitely like I'm already into like Korean R&B and Korean hip hop, so I think I'll get a little bit more deeper anyways. So I'm really excited because everyone has started to um like as you said, like there's like light at the end of the road. So they're all like releasing a lot of different types of music and exploring their own um taste and everything. So I'm really excited.
You know, as you said it, I actually do think that might be BTS's next challenge, right? Is now collaborating with
Mm-hmm.
different artists from
Yeah.
other parts of the world that are not Western artists. So
Yeah.
like you said, Eric Nam had a collaboration.
Exactly.
Alexa also had a collaboration recently.
Yes.
The song title is
Um,
Is It On? By, I cannot pronounce this. Can you pronounce it?
uh,
I can
yes,
try.
let
Um,
me just search it up.
okay. Uh,
I, yeah, it's a Middle Eastern singer.
Bader Al Shaub Shaubi.
Bader Al Shaubi, I think. Yeah.
Yours sounds way better than mine. I tried. Um,
It's okay.
yeah, but
Yeah.
like you said, like I think because Eric Nam and Alexa are both English speaking, they are from the United States. They, I think they just have a natural ability to want to explore collaborations with other artists, especially from the Middle East, especially from India, especially from other
Mhm.
parts of the world that may not be as visible. And with BTS clearly learning English, clearly being more accessible, I think that's their next challenge. And if they really do want to put a stamp on
Yeah.
like globalization, you say we're gonna get the hottest Bollywood artist on our track, multiple tracks, and then we're gonna go from
Exactly.
there.
There's also like those groups that form like KDA, like people or like the singers from like different parts of Asia are collaborating for I think it's League of Legends, right? Like
Hmm.
KDA is for League of Legends.
Yep, yeah,
Um,
multicultural
yeah,
collaboration over like a virtual
yeah,
platform.
yeah. It's crazy, and the songs are really good too. Like I really like listening to KDA and all the songs they have.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's amazing what those songs, like with those artists and those music projects, are able to accomplish and show us, right? And I do think it's just a matter of
hmm.
time for like a bigger collaboration to really grab hold and like give the visibility of other
Hmm.
cultures that K-pop has done for Korea. And yeah, I think the future is bright,
Yeah,
like you said, with the light at the end of the road.
yeah.
Well,
Oh my God, I forgot to mention
go ahead.
my all-time favorite Stray Kids. Did a collaboration with Alesso for PUBG. And shout out to Stray Kids. Go listen to Stray Kids. Um, but yeah, so they did a collaboration with Alesso and Corsac, and they did Going Dumb, and it's for PUBG.
For me, I knew Alesso back in 2012, so I
Mm-hmm.
was expecting an amazing house song, and that is what I got. So, yeah,
Yes.
I love Alesso. I love his older music.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's like Alesso and Stray Kids, and I actually do feel like old EDM producers and DJs are, well, not old, but like EDM producers and DJs from the past like 10 years
Mm-hmm.
are now like moving into different like collaborations, because this is an amazing collaboration. But we can't forget
Yeah.
we have Chunga and Rehab.
Yes, that was so good. Oh.
Yeah, and people forget where Rehab's from. Rehab is European, and he started off as an amazing DJ. I think he was discovered, not maybe not discovered, but he worked hand in hand with Afrojack for a long time, and then they both popped off at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. So we're getting into like a
Yeah.
whole other music conversation here, which I love, by the way. I think this is why like you and I get along so well, because like we have very similar outlooks on like the broader scope of music, which is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But yeah, just like gonna close things out. Do you have any final things you'd like to tell everyone, Aura?
Um, Not really. I'm really looking forward to this year. I know like we're already like 5 months in, 6 months in, and time is a construct and I can't tell anything, but I'm just so excited because it's been over a year since I've been into K-pop and I've just been discovering new things every week and it's crazy because I feel like I can't keep up and this is just like a few people that I keep up with. Like my other like casual listening things, I don't even go and check them out because I'm just so busy trying to keep up with the people that I really follow. So I really hope that we get more collaborations, releases, and a lot of new things to talk about on the in the nation and on the podcast. So yeah,
Absolutely. It's beautiful sentiment. Yes, just more great
yes,
things, and slowly making our way through all of the existing amazing pieces of art that these musicians have given us
yes,
over the years. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a really great, in depth, cross cultural conversation, and I really do appreciate you coming on today.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank Aura for joining me to share her story and personal history. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify or your preferred podcast platform, and continue the conversation on the SojuTalk K-pop podcast Discord. I'm Crispy, and this has been the Soju Sessions.